Ladies and gents, welcome to the reaction. This is India and Pakistan on the brink of war. Which are war fronts. Yeah, it's much closer than it has ever been in a long ass time. People think this is one of those instances where India-Pakistan thing happens, tensions rises, and it just slows down. This is not one of those times. It's kind of fucked up. So I recently reacted to the TLDR news video on it, and yeah, obviously I was a bit pissed. But yeah, I was pissed in general. I wasn't really blaming Vest or anything. What do they have to do with this, right? But I was just like, how certain media was like handling it, right? So I was just like responding based on that. But yeah, I was glad of all the positive comments and positive things all around. But yeah, in the end of the day, nobody wants war, so this is just fucked up, right? This happening. I saw the recent news of how Pakistan was sending a lot of equipments, heavy equipments at the border. There's no news of India doing that as far as I know, but who the fuck knows what's gonna happen. It's really like interesting, isn't it? Like, okay, you're not gonna admit that you have anything to do with this, great, but you can at least admit like this terrorist came from your region. At least you can somewhat low-key apologize for that and try to at least say like, okay, we'll fight terrorism together or some initiative like that, rather than be aggressive, right? India stopped the dam, but before that, Pakistan was still aggressive. Pakistan didn't try to do any damage control at all, so that's what led to aggression, right? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Let's watch it.
Right now, two nuclear-armed nations stand at the precipice of an all-out war. Following a shocking terror attack against Hindu tourists in the disputed region of Kashmir, the bitter South Asian rivals, India and Pakistan, have leapt at each other's throats, exchanging fire, cutting off a critical water supply, and moving military assets in a way that suggests large-scale violence may be imminent. India appears to be building a pretext to strike Pakistan directly. Pakistan is making clear that it will defend itself at any cost, and attempts by the entire rest of the world to bring a stop to the crisis have failed. The fragile peace between India and Pakistan, it is crumbling as we speak. So here's what we all are going to need to know in advance of whatever comes next. Now, before we begin, we've got to issue a key caveat here. Everything that we discuss in today's episode is up to date as of sunrise, Monday the 28th of April in New Delhi and Islamabad. Anything that's happened since that time will not be accounted for in this episode, and in this case, that is especially important to bear in mind. Look, judging by the pace of escalation on both sides going on right now, it's not safe to assume that this conflict will remain in a phase of preparation and build up for any length of time. So do rest assured that if war has already broken out by the time you see this, then we already have an update coming. Now, the current crisis in India and Pakistan began about a week ago on the 22nd of April in a meadow called the Baisaran Valley, a few kilometers away from the resort town of Pahalgam. Now, that town is located in the Himalayan mountains in a region known as Jammu and Kashmir that's been the focus of a dispute between India and Pakistan for nearly a century. Now, for the sake of time, we'll leave an explanation on the history of this conflict for another episode, but suffice it to say that for now, while India and Pakistan have agreed to split the region along a mutually accepted line of control, it's remained the site of both ongoing insurgencies and a bit of geopolitical rivalry between the two nations. Pahalgam is in the Indian-controlled part of Kashmir, and despite
Yeah, so we clearly saw the graph of like since when autonomous status was removed, the economy rose, security rose as well, like less incidents, higher tourist and higher economy. People are happy all around, right? Like every single poll has been done, like people are happy with the economy and everything. Business is booming, and this will come like, oh, we want Kashmir. People who are living there don't want you. And who the fuck are you to claim anything? And they're still gonna do shit like this. Are you kidding me?
the conflict in the region, Pahalgam itself has been a safe, popular tourist destination in a place where fighting is typically kept well away from tourist areas. But on April the 22nd, the tranquility of Pahalgam was shattered when 5 armed gunmen attacked a large group of tourists in the nearby Baisaran Valley. Wielding assault rifles and wearing military-style fatigues, the gunmen snuck through the sparse local security and began to interrogate the tourists they encountered. Muslims were separated out. First, if they could recite a verse of Islamic prayer, and then they asked the other men to show whether they were circumcised, a common practice in the Muslim world. Hindu men who did not pass the two tests were then executed at close range, while women and children present at the scene were spared. 26 people were executed in the attack, including 24.
People that don't bring religion into this. People who doing attack are bringing religion into this. They didn't do this attack this belongs to Pakistan. It wasn't about Pakistan, India. It was about religion. Oh, are you Muslim? Okay, you can go. You Hindu? Okay, recite this shit. And when they clearly can't, they were shot. I mean, are you kidding me? Right? And people are like, not everyone's the same. And obviously that's common sense. You're saying commonsensical things that everybody know. What is your point right now? That still doesn't change the fact that this shit happened. Right? I mean, come on.
Hindus, a Christian, and a local Muslim man who had tried to intervene. 20 others were wounded, and the insurgents escaped, at least for a while. Credit for the attack was claimed publicly by a group called the Resistance Front, or TRF, a recently established organization that first became active in 2019. They're an offshoot, a subsidiary by some accounts, and a splinter group by others, from a well-established Pakistan-based jihadist insurgent group called Lashkar-e-Taiba. This is an organization with a long history of attacks on India, including the days-long siege of the city of Mumbai in 2008, when over 160 people were killed and Westerners were hunted down. Like the Resistance Front, Lashkar-e-Taiba's primary objective is to break India's control over Kashmir, thus
like America has hunted down Taliban and Osama bin Laden, India should have kept at that. People who behind that, or even subsidiary of that group, India should have kept attacking that until everybody's hunted down. This is the problem here. Doesn't matter what happened, India should have gone after them after the Mumbai attack. Because shit like this, of course it was going to happen.
Allowing it to be annexed by Pakistan. The Resistance Front is somewhat less overtly religious in its messaging and is prominent on social media for recruiting purposes, but in terms of its overall goals, it and Lashkar-e-Taiba are on fundamentally the same page. Now, critically, India accuses Pakistan of directly supporting the groups, fomenting attacks, granting them safe harbor, and benefiting from their violent work to advance Pakistan's long-held objectives. Now, from the moment that news of the Pahalgam massacre began to spread across the globe, it was clear that the geopolitical implications could be major. As if to confirm those suspicions, India immediately accused Pakistan of being behind the attack, citing digital evidence and intelligence intercepts that implicated Pakistani operatives in a supporting role. India has yet to produce conclusive evidence for the world to see, but that did not stop a first round of reprisal measures against Pakistan from coming within just a day's time. India announced 5 retaliatory steps in total, including the closure of the primary border crossing that links India and Pakistan.
Of course, India's not going to give you intelligence just yet. Do America and Five Eyes just share intelligence with India and everywhere where some shit happens there? I mean, yeah, this is the internal thing, isn't it? They have enough reason to say okay, Pakistan is the fault here and actually take action behind it. India's not just going to do that if they have no evidence. Come on. They have intelligence of this. Pakistan's previous ministers came out and said okay, we are funding these organizations to have a political benefit. Am I fucking kidding me? This is insane.
The expulsion of Pakistani diplomats, a travel ban on all Pakistani nationals to India, and an order for Pakistani visa holders to leave India immediately. India formally downgraded its ties with Pakistan and issued information on 3 suspects, 2 of whom it claims to be Pakistani. Now, the most important retaliatory measure, by far, was the suspension of a critical agreement called the Indus Waters Treaty, a compact first signed in 1960 to establish control and sharing arrangements over the waters of the Indus River and several other important rivers. Up until now, the treaty has never been suspended, despite multiple violent conflicts, and it's been hailed as one of the most successful water-sharing arrangements worldwide. Importantly, the water of the Indus River and other governed water sources flow.
In other words, all the shit that happened in India still didn't do anything about this. Okay, fine, we're not going to touch the water. But there is a breaking point, isn't it?
From India into Pakistan, giving India practical leverage over the rivers if it ever chooses to take action. Pakistan has long regarded the potential suspension of the treaty as a major national security threat, both because India could withhold water from Pakistan and cause crippling droughts, and because it could release the water in massive floods traveling downstream. 80% of farms in Pakistan rely on waters governed by the treaty, and the nation has already suffered consecutive years of drought, meaning that a long-term cut-off of water could be crippling for Pakistan in the long term. So for India to suspend the treaty...
See, that's what effed up part about this is, right? Common people in Pakistan have nothing to do with this. The people who every day walk around have nothing to do with this, right? They are the one who's going to suffer because of all this, response and all this aggression and everything. That's the fucked up part about it, right? I'm not just speaking here as an Indian, right? I recognize everybody, like every individual person. People are people, right? Most people in every country are not a-holes. They are common people, right? So because of this attack, India's actions to stop water, which when you think about it politically, right, how you have to respond type of way, of course it makes sense. Of course India was going to do that. But in the end of the day, it's going to hurt common people. That's fucked up.
In the wake of the Pahalgam attack, sent two very frightening signals all at once. First, indicated that India's assessment of the terror attack must have either showed conclusively that Pakistan was responsible, or to take a cynical view here, it had decided to use the attack as pretext for a major escalation. And second, given the magnitude of the threshold that India just crossed, India most likely wants to make it clear...
You're right. India needs to fight Pakistan for... I guess Pakistan has some resources that India need, okay. Oh, I guess the whatever part of Kashmir is, India has to have that, otherwise India is collapsing economy. No, but that's not true either. Why the fuck would India need to go to war against Pakistan? How does that benefit India? Especially when there are like constant skirmishes happening with China in the western part of India. This doesn't benefit India. This conflict doesn't help India, right? India is surrounded by two, Pakistan and China, who's constantly aggressing against the border. India doesn't want to do war. They have to, because if you don't do anything, this is just pure signal of weakness.
That it will not be backing down. Pakistan issued its own series of retaliations in short order, closing its airspace to Indian airlines and giving a sharp condemnation of India's decision to suspend the water treaty. The nation suspended a very special visa category granted to Indians, with the exception of Sikh pilgrims, and suspended all trade with India, including trade deals in goods exchanged through third nations. Pakistan suspended its own historic treaty, the similar agreement signed in 1962, which establishes principles governing the carefully managed peace between the two nations, including a ceasefire in Kashmir. Pakistan accused India of, and we'll quote here, fomenting terrorism inside Pakistan, and stated it would consider all bilateral agreements and treaties with India to be suspended until India ended its alleged sponsorship of terrorism. Perhaps most important of all...
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Historically, where has there ever been a tie between any Indian or Indian government with any terrorist organization? Now let's look at Pakistan. Every single terrorist organization has some kind of ties with Pakistan. Osama was in Pakistan. So like, really?
Going back to the Indus Waters Treaty, Pakistan vowed to consider any attempt to stop or divert water allotted for Pakistan as an act of war, one that would draw full military retaliation from Pakistan. Then, the provocation started. Overnight on the 24th, troops of both nations exchanged fire overnight across the mutually agreed line of control, particularly in an area called the Lipa Valley. The shooting continued.
No, shooting started by Pakistan, not both sides. India responded. That was also a bold move. Okay, I guess they're going to use the excuse of stopping the water, right? But, this just started from your side. Rather than like de-escalating situation, rather than saying like, okay, we need to do something about our security as well, because shit is like this is happening a lot. Rather than showing any of those kind, like they are the one who's like aggressively attacking at the border, moving heavy equipment. It's like, really? That's a bold move.
On the next night and on the next, with soldiers using small arms to fire into each other's vicinity in a growing number of locations. By the night of the 26th, Pakistan had deployed self-propelled artillery, and the skirmishers shown no signs of stopping. The Indian aircraft carrier INS Vikrant was dispatched to the Arabian Sea, while its latest guided missile destroyer, the Surat, conducted a live-fire missile interception and shot down a sea-skimming target in a signal of India's military readiness. Ongoing exercises by the Indian Air Force have intensified, and military assets have begun moving rapidly across the country. In India, in Pakistan, and among the diaspora of both nationalities worldwide, protests began around diplomatic locations, with protesters supporting each nation clashing abroad at times. Meanwhile, in India-controlled Kashmir, Indian security forces cracked down on suspected terrorists, with skirmishes breaking out that have left several soldiers and several militants dead so far. In the process, security forces destroyed the homes of people suspected of being involved with the attack. Finally, India demonstrated that it was willing to meddle with the rivers governed by the Indus Waters Treaty. Although India cannot immediately cut off the flow of water because it's only allowed by treaty to build installations that can't dam those rivers, it released much of the water that it can store on a river called the Jhelum. According to the Times of India, water was released from a dam without notice after heavy rain, sending floodwaters downstream to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Residents were able to evacuate, and Pakistan appears not to have interpreted that threat as the act of war that it warned against, but it may only be a glimpse of what's to come. In the short term, monsoon season is coming, and Pakistan would be powerless to stop a rush of surplus water into the nation unannounced. India could divert water to its own canals in just a matter of months, choking off the supply to Pakistan in the short term, while large-scale dams could take anywhere from a couple of years to the better part of a decade to finish. India has indicated that it will not share flood warnings with Pakistan in the future, and it'll withhold any information from Pakistan that would indicate how much water is coming downstream or when it'll arrive. Now, at the time of writing, India and Pakistan have not entered a large-scale conflict, but according to most expert observers in the region, a harsh retaliation by India seems to be an inevitability. In fact, reporting by the New York Times suggests that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is working overtime to explain its justifications for a strike on Pakistan to the international community. Per the Times, Modi has received and spoken with over 100 representatives of other nations, and according to diplomatic sources, he's working to secure either approval or at least a tacit agreement not to get in the way from the officials that he's meeting with. Publicly, Modi has vowed severe retaliation and threatened to destroy areas that militants in Kashmir rely on for safe haven. Modi's harsh response has been well received domestically, with much of India outraged over the deliberate targeting of Hindu civilians in the terror.
Yeah, Modi's saying like we're gonna attack all this safe haven of these terrorists. Pakistan could say that like, okay, we're gonna help you because we don't like terrorists. They're not doing that. And like, okay, what do you want India to do really? Oh, okay, bygones be bygones. I guess we'll wait for the next attack. Okay, so next time some civilians go there, right? People are gonna come and do the same shit. Maybe at the big scale, because why not? Of course, India's gonna do this, man.
Attack in Pahalgam. For years, Modi's political movement has drawn on the power of Hindu nationalism in the world's most populous nation, and now anti-Muslim sentiment in India is rising rapidly. Abroad, few nations have the type of meaningful leverage over Modi.
Really, some people comes and ask certain people, are you Muslim? Okay, you can go. Are you Hindu? Recite this Islamic verse, which we know you can't, and shoot them. And Modi's, okay, Hindu nationalist, right? Really? This is just insane, man, right? Here's the thing. You can see certain situation and just put a tag on it, like just misconstrued the whole thing and just put a tag on it. Oh, Modi is a Hindu nationalist. Has Modi done some, certain like aggressive things in the past? Yeah, he has done that. But because of shit like this, right? Are you kidding me? He was chief minister of like a major state for like 15, 20 years. Then he became prime minister. He has been leader for like 3 decades now, right? 2-3 decades now. He has been leader of a major region, right? He doesn't do that by just like becoming this kind of a Hindu nationalist and causing religious wars. It's very easy to tag that and cause misinformation. But shit like this happen, you can't scream Hindu nationalist, right? Because the attack was specifically religious. They didn't attack, oh, this belongs to Pakistan and you are Indian. No, it was, oh, are you Hindu? Okay, recite this Islamic verse. If you can, I'm going to shoot you. And they did, in front of their wives. Are you kidding me?
That could prevent India's leader from escalating if he so chooses, and those nations that could put a stop to what's happening don't appear inclined to do that. As for what comes next, past action may help to predict future conflict. India and Pakistan have fought several wars since the partition of India in 1947 with varying results. Their first war, fought over Kashmir in 1947 and 1948, ended with a stalemate that's sometimes interpreted as a partial victory for India establishing the line of control in Kashmir that still governs affairs to this day. In 1965, India got the better of a 6-week-long war, while in 1971, India was able to beat back an initial Pakistani assault and force the surrender of over 90,000 Pakistani troops. In a more limited engagement, the Cargo War of 1999, Pakistan provoked a war that was quickly drawn down due to international pressure in yet another defeat for the Pakistani military. Other engagements since that time have consisted of smaller skirmishes before a rather hurried return to the status quo. The good news to take away from that quick history is that these two nuclear-armed nations have proven adept at...
The difference between those wars and right now is that Pakistan has nukes now, right? Both countries have nukes, and Pakistan has advanced Chinese weapons, right? And the fucked up part about that is, like I said, India has a stable democracy. Well, Pakistan military decide if like democracy is going to stay there or not. Every new prime minister in Pakistan has to have to be in the good graces of the leader of the military. This is like Prussia off the back, like, okay, military has a government, like really? And they have this advanced weapon and nukes?
Avoiding a nuclear exchange so far. Pakistan gained the ability to detonate a nuclear weapon around 1984. India tested its first weapon a decade earlier, and today each side possesses an arsenal at or above 170 warheads. Neither side has yet launched a nuclear weapon in anger, and for now, the current conflict doesn't outwardly seem to be on track for a nuclear exchange. So, that's something to count on at a moment where good news in this crisis is pretty hard to come by. But both in terms of their nuclear and their conventional weapons, the most important factor that may differentiate this conflict from prior exchanges for India and Pakistan is the degree to which their respective militaries have evolved. Pakistan has acquired hundreds of modern main battle tanks, quite a bit of heavy artillery, and advanced Chinese fighter aircraft since the turn of the 21st century. India, meanwhile, has rapidly modernized its military over the last several years, fielding an aircraft carrier, new top-of-the-line combat jets, and a small but significant number of other advanced pieces of military hardware.
This is the thing, right? Pakistan has China to look forward to. India doesn't have a similar thing. India had Soviet Union and Russia, maybe, but like, okay, their equipment. There was a news a few years ago where, same level of shit happened, and India responded, where old MiG was chasing an F-16. And yeah, news says like, okay, Pakistan shot down an Indian plane. Okay, Indian plane went down, but also the F-16 went down with the older MiG. Are you understanding that? Like, that's the disparity. Yes, since then India has upgraded, now India has Rafale and things. But still, when it comes to equipment, Pakistan at certain points have like really advanced equipment compared to India. But the reality is India has much more of those. You can't really compare Pakistan military versus Indian military. It's not even the close to being same. Very different. If you look at the global spending on military, Pakistan, India doesn't even come close, right? Yes, Pakistan has like certain good, okay, they have Lamborghinis, but what the fuck? Like, that's not enough, right? But India needs to focus on like, okay, acquiring better equipment or trying to like make their own. Making their own is not going to be easy. It's going to take a long time. But yeah, India has acquired Apache helicopter from US, right? And they're acquiring different things from around the place. They're not just relying on Russian-made things now.
Along with a high volume of older weapons and vehicles. Notably, both sides have enhanced their delivery mechanisms for nuclear weapons, meaning that if either side does choose to escalate toward a nuclear exchange, then each side will need to treat the other's capabilities with immense care in order to avoid provoking a first strike. Again, it is not likely that a nuclear exchange will happen over the course of this conflict, but we are talking about a direct confrontation between two...
India will never use nukes. I can say that with a guarantee, doesn't matter what. Pakistan, I don't know. Like I said, it's not much of stable democracy. They were about to collapse just a year ago when their economy nearly collapsed. The military have the government. Like, who knows which kind of a person goes crazy and decides to launch nuke. The fucked up part about that is, as soon as anyone launches nukes, entire world is against them. Entire world is going to respond back, because using nukes is not just about two people fighting. Using nuke is, crossing a line that nobody has done. So that's too catastrophic. So I can hope the people who come in charge, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter which position, have enough brain cell to think about like, this is the line we never cross, doesn't matter what.
Two nuclear arms nations. An exchange simply cannot be ruled out completely. As for what happens next, that choice appears to be in India's hands for now. The nation has largely ignored calls by other countries and international organizations, including the UN, to de-escalate, and Modi's preparations over the last few days would indicate that he and his inner circle do intend to begin at least a limited exchange. But how far India will go?
How are you making India the bad guy here? Again, I will be the first guy to say like, oh, India sucks and this and that. Like I've said that in the past, whenever there's an issue. But this is not one of those things. This kind of attack has been happening a lot. This was the breaking point. India has to answer. Pakistan has to like make amends. Pakistan has to go like, okay, we are with you. This is too much. We're going to help you hunt down terrorist cells. Shit would de-escalate. They didn't do that. Right? They said, oh, we have nothing to do with it. How dare you accuse me? And just like, be aggressive. Clear sign of like, okay, maybe we are funding it. Maybe we're not. We are not going to do anything about it. And you're going to take it. Of course, India is not going to take it. Right? Are you kidding me? How is India going to de-escalate? Show me. Okay, comment down. Like, how is India going to de-escalate? Okay, pull down the troops. So it shows like, oh, India's not going to do anything. So next attack is even bigger. Maybe another Mumbai-style attack happens. What are you talking about? Like I've said in the past, India and Pakistan border is the border against terrorism. There is no terrorist cell in India. But about that, from Pakistan to entire Middle East, there are terrorist cell everywhere. This is a big deal. This is a big security issue that no other country in the world, no other country's border has to face. India has to worry about terrorist cell crossing the border and getting foothold in India. That was one of the major issue why, Modi removed the, like special status of Kashmir. Because that was increasing issues with the modern equipment that terrorist cells have now, right? Drones that people have now, like the security issue was raising. So he had to remove and put troops there. So it stabilizes a bit. Economy shot up, security shot up. Is in the graphs, not made by India, but Western, medias that have nothing to do with this, has no skin in the game. So why would they lie? So that's the graph from them. Like security is up, economy is up, and people are still gonna bitch like, oh, that's a problem. How?
Nobody except Modi himself knows. Critically, India does have a precedent for responding to attacks like these. In 2016, an attack killed 19 Indian soldiers, and in retaliation, India launched targeted airstrikes on militant targets on the Pakistani side of the Kashmir line of control. In 2019, at least 40 Indian paramilitaries were killed, and again, India's response came by way of airstrikes, although on that occasion, Indian and Pakistani pilots got into a dog.
It never happens the other way around. You never hear news of happening that in Pakistan. It's always in this side. India is always in the receiving end. Again, of course, it's going to reach a breaking point. This is the breaking point.
Fight over the region. Although a wider war was averted in both instances, and that is a reason for limited optimism, the precedent also makes it difficult for India not to launch airstrikes, this time as a bare minimum. Both the targeting of civilians this time around and the scale and scope of India's response thus far suggest that the response will be considerably larger. Among the non-nuclear options available to India, if the nation is interested in a resolution that does not start a full-scale war, is the possibility of a covert operation inside Pakistan or Pakistani Kashmir. Those could target known
covert operation how? Pakistan has already sent a lot of equipment at the border. How is covert operation going to work? All right? They're like, oh, we're defending, oh, India has launched, and they're just going to attack back. So now India has to attack with a proper military. How is covert operation going to work? Did Pakistan say we're going to help you with the terrorist cell? No. What they did was put like troops and heavy equipment at the border because they are waiting for the Indian attack, apparently. Right? But Pakistan is handling this completely badly. Right? Rather than showing like, okay, we are with you, India. This is a tragedy for you. We get it. You're angry. We're going to help you with this. We have nothing to do with this, to show that we're going to help you hunt down terrorist cells. But no.
Militant bases or other concentrations of Lashkar-e-Taiba fighters or assets, or it could target the Pakistani military or its intelligence services, depending on the message that India wants to send. The severity of that message when it arrives. Alternately, India could engage in cross-border shelling, targeting either uninhabited areas for purely symbolic purposes or targets associated to either non-state militants or the military proper. Finally, it could engage in wider airstrikes, either with aircraft or cruise missiles, but counterweight a higher volume of strikes or the selection of higher-powered munitions by targeting irrelevant or minimally important locations. Or India can launch an attack that will lead to wider conflict, demonstrating its willingness to challenge Pakistan directly and then leaving it up to Pakistan to either back down or retaliate in kind. The problem with even limited strikes, however, is that they can very easily be misinterpreted or received by Pakistan in a way that India doesn't anticipate. Depending on what India does and how Pakistan reacts, there's no telling whether even a carefully calibrated symbolic attack could lead to a much larger exchange. Indeed, there's no telling that Pakistan will even wait for India to act first. With India seeming to be on the warpath, Pakistan may choose to act first and gain an advantage if the nation's leaders believe that a more...
Yes, because historically they always had the advantage and it worked great for them. Yeah, recently, Indian government gave the green light to the military, arms, army, navy, air force, deal with the situation as needed, right, without much of handcuffs, which implies conflict probably will happen. So that's something like, okay, right, I think balls in Pakistan's court how they respond, right, because they were the one who should have de-escalated because issue arise from them. Terrorist attack happened inside India, right? Indian people got killed, right? So yeah, I don't know where this is gonna go.
Significant conflict is in store. It's the same dynamics that we've seen play out within just the last year between Israel and Iran. Strikes can be carefully prepared to send a specific message, but there are no guarantees that the message will be received as intended. There is, however, room for de-escalation on both sides. Pakistan has the option to institute its own crackdowns in Kashmir, identifying and prosecuting militants or potentially even cooperating with India in its investigations. To be clear, that's not likely to happen, but it is an option. Pakistan can appeal to either the United States or China to help mediate the situation, or it can decline to strike back in the event that India attacks, although that decision would come with political costs back home. India could opt for a long-term retaliation rather than a short-term strike, deciding instead to manipulate the waters of the Kashmir region, build dams over the next few years, and pressure Pakistan that way. Or it could even make limited moves in pursuit of that course before letting the crisis calm down naturally with time and making a graceful exit from this cycle of escalation. Unfortunately, the more likely scenario is that de-escalation talk is wishful thinking. If the reports on India's diplomatic efforts are accurate, then the nation may strike Pakistan within days, it may strike within hours, or by the time you're watching this, that strike might have already happened. All indicators are that India intends to treat this situation with grave seriousness, and its decision to take retaliatory steps that New Delhi has stayed away from before.
Yeah. Okay. There was a recent news today. The Pakistan has said we are gonna attack India in 24 to 36 hours. Not India. This is the shit is happening. Like he said in the video. Okay, Pakistan can do certain things and appease India, so de-escalate and everything. They're not gonna do that. Okay, can you be more of a bad guy at this point? Really, is there a gray point here? India should de-escalate. In which world? Any country says India should de-escalate, first needs to answer what would they do if they were in India's shoes? China is a problem now. Past 2-3 years, China's skirmishes has been happening a lot at the border. China point blank claims a state of India as one of their own now. If India doesn't do this shit, it's not just about Pakistan, it's about China as well. It sends signal to China that India can't even respond to Pakistan, let alone China. So China can just come and take the fucking Arunachal Pradesh, take the whole state. More is at stake right now. If India doesn't respond, that is the insane weakness at global stage. India can't do that, right? Pakistan has to de-escalate. The problem with that is they don't have enough smart politicians there who sees this shit and want to de-escalate. That's the level of confusing shit is happening there. Where this is gonna go, who the fuck knows? Well, that was India and Pakistan on the brink of war. Watch on War Fronts. If you like my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.